Remember, my excellent drivers, you are responsible for the safe use of your vehicle and abiding by the state or territory rules that you are driving in, and that, of course, includes mobile phone usage.
Welcome to the Learn to Drive podcast. I'm your host, Liz Lafferty, and I'm here to guide you through the twists and turns of learning to drive with a few laughs along the way. So whether you're a newbie trying to figure out why the car keeps beeping at you, or a seasoned road warrior who still can't parallel park without causing a minor traffic jam, I've got you covered. So buckle up, check those mirrors, and let's hit the road to becoming a more confident and happier driver. Hello and welcome to the Art of Confident Driving. I'm your host, Instructor Liz Lafferty, and I am absolutely thrilled to be able to bring you this full driving lesson. It's normally only available to my subscribers, but I wanted to make this one free for everybody to be able to listen to because I know there are a lot of drivers out there who really are uncomfortable and certainly not confident when it comes to dealing with emergency vehicles. So that's why I do want to allow everybody to be able to listen to it. I do recommend that you share the episode to people who you think might benefit from listening to it, which pretty much is everybody. So yeah, please sit back, relax, listen to our very special guest, Miss Zoe, who is a paramedic and has worked both here in Australia and in the UK. And I was just so happy to have her give us some really good advice on dealing with emergency vehicles. So please welcome Miss Zoe, all the way from the UK, who's going to tell us all about how to act near emergency vehicles. Welcome, Zoe.
Hi, how are you?
Well, actually, I'm cold and you're probably warm because we're on opposite sides of the planet at the moment, where we're nice and cool in winter and you guys have got a nice sunny UK
Heat
day,
wave.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a heat wave at the moment.
Heat wave, there you go. That will certainly keep the emergency vehicles very busy.
Yes, always makes us more busy when it's really hot or really cold.
Yeah, because people, they need extra help in those times.
Yeah.
So you learnt to become a paramedic here on the Gold Coast, is that right?
Yeah, I trained at Griffith with their paramedic program, and then I moved to the UK to work as a paramedic when I graduated.
Fabulous. So have you noticed there's a big difference between Australian road rules and the UK road rules when it comes to driving an emergency vehicle?
Not so much the emergency vehicle, but the roundabouts are truly diabolical here. You're allowed to change lanes on them. And that was one of the biggest changes for me, was remembering I am allowed to change lanes. But I think regardless of whether you're in Australia or the UK, everyone panics a little bit around an emergency vehicle and is never really quite sure what to be doing with us because we are very big and often moving very quickly and very loudly.
Exactly, very loudly. And I guess that's the first thing I'd like our listeners to remember is when you're driving, you are responsible for listening and watching out for your emergency vehicles. They don't always have the sirens going, do they? Sometimes they only have the lights.
Yeah, so in the UK, if we've got our lights on during the day, we'll have our sirens on. But overnight, it's at about 11:30 at night in built-up residential areas. We won't have our sirens on because there's fewer road users and we'd be keeping people up unless we need them. So if we're going through intersections, we'll always have them on. But if it's a long straight road, we probably don't have them on in the dark.
Yeah. And it can be intimidating, especially for new drivers or drivers who aren't familiar with the area, on what to do if they look up in the mirror and they see flashing lights or they can hear the siren coming. So what would be a couple of tips that you'd like to give the punters out there?
I think the first thing is always stay calm. If there is no safe place for you to get out of the way or slow down, just keep driving. Follow the road rules. You can stop at stop signs. That's totally fine. But don't panic is always our first piece of advice for everybody because it makes it harder for us to keep you safe if you're suddenly stopping in front of us. It makes it so much more dangerous for everybody else. So that's kind of our biggest thing is please keep driving safely if it is the safest option for you. That is the biggest thing. And also making sure that when there is somewhere safe to pull over to the side, whether it's a lane on the left-hand side that's now empty, parked cars have moved, moving to the side when you can in a safe and controlled manner always gives us a lot more space as well. Or sometimes we will move into the wrong side of the road, but just making sure you're pulling over when it's safe to do so, not speeding up, but maintaining your speed limit or dropping it where it's safe.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people panic whenever there's an emergency vehicle near them. So yeah, I'm going to reiterate exactly what Zoe just said. First of all, stay calm. Second of all, look around. yes, it's probably a smart idea to start slowing down. But again, it's got to be gentle. It's got to be predictable so that the other road users around you, including that emergency vehicle, they don't get scared and go, what is this person doing? So again, just looking around, staying calm, seeing an opportunity. So you'll find that a lot of other road users are probably getting out of the way as well. You can also be guided by what are they doing? Are they all pulling to the left, which is personally my recommendation? We do like the left because, of course, the right lane is the faster lane, or at least they can get around you a bit easier rather than mounting footpaths. So, yeah, moving over to the left, you'll find a lot of road users are starting to do that. So you can just follow them, but again, stay calm, look around. Here in Australia, in a lot of states, and do please check your state road rules, but they're reasonably similar where, first of all, if there is an emergency vehicle near you, you would do your best to get out of their way. And that will sometimes include entering an intersection, but only if it is safe. It can include going through a red light, again, only if it is safe. And it can include going to the wrong side of the road, again, only if it's safe. I know I keep saying that, guys, but we can't just panic and fly the car off to the sides. Because, again, we don't want the paramedics to be late for whoever they're going to see. And we also don't want to have to call another lot of paramedics to come and attend to us.
Yeah, not ideal if you are needing to call more paramedics after you've tried to get out of the way. We would prefer that everybody makes it where they're going in one piece and safely.
Yeah, absolutely correctly. So what would you do if you are stuck behind some cars who can't move? Because I think over in the UK, and there are some other areas around the world where you're not allowed to go through a red light or enter an intersection even if there's an emergency vehicle around you.
Yeah, so that's right. In the UK, we as emergency drivers aren't allowed to push the public through an intersection. So if it's a red light, we don't want you going through it. And it's the same in Australia, like you are legally allowed to go through it. Please check your state rules, like Liz says. But sometimes it's not safe for you to go into that intersection. We don't want you going into a fast intersection if it's not safe. Please don't do that.
Yep.
And all you do is you just sit, you wait patiently for your light to change.
Yep.
We can go on the wrong side of the road if we need to. But you might just see us stop quite a way back from the car in front of us. So there's a big gap and we'll turn our sirens off, might turn our lights off, and we'll just wait for the lights to change. At which point, if you guys go through the intersection and if you can pull to the left in your intersection, that gives us more space to go around you because there's not things like concrete in the middle of your set of traffic lights. Normally, once we've made it through across that stop line, we'll have enough space to get around you. And sometimes it just means we all go through the intersection together, then we'll come around you, lights back on, sirens back on, and off to where we're going.
Yeah. So as an emergency vehicle driver, what do you think about the vehicles who sneak in behind you guys to get a free, fast ride?
They're very frustrating. So with the ambulances in the UK, it's a similar build to the ones that you see in Australia, but we have a big box on the back. So we have even more blind spots. We can't see anyone who is behind us if you're directly behind us and quite close. Normally people are sneaking along behind us.
Yeah.
And we do brake quite sharply a lot.
Yeah.
If we're coming up to a turn we didn't realize we needed, obviously if someone in front of us has had to stop quite quickly, we've come around a bend and there's traffic, the chances of someone rear-ending us and hurting themselves because we're a long way forward in our vehicle are a lot higher if they're sneaking up behind us in the traffic. And it worries us not only when it's cars, but also motorbikes and mopeds. You're so much smaller than us. We just can't see you. We don't know you're there, which does give us all a worry when we realize someone's there.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people do that where they'll just think, oh, yeah, I can, sneak in behind and join the ambulance or the fire truck. I'm like, no, don't do that because, as you say, they might have to slam on the brakes and take a quick turn, or they might have to pull over suddenly to attend to their patient. There could be anything going on. And for you to be that close, you're giving them and you no wiggle room at all. So, we all want to get on with our day. We spent a whole, 10 seconds pulling over for the emergency vehicle. We don't need to make it up on that same road, guys. We don't need to be, following the poor drivers that close. I think let's give them a bit of space, hey?
Yeah, I remember at one point I was the passenger in the ambulance. So my colleague was driving and we were going through a very fast road. We have an exemption to go over the speed limit, obviously. So we're going above the speed limit and there is a vehicle sitting so close to the blind spot, the driver can't see him in the mirror.
Wow.
So I have had to then watch in my mirror to tell him that he's still there because of how close this vehicle is. We're driving a 7-ton vehicle going at 70 miles an hour, so nearly 100 Ks. we're not moving slowly. It's a fast moving road and there was a lot of traffic around us. So that was really stressful for my colleague because he was so worried that we knew we had an exit coming up and we have to cut across 3 lanes of traffic to get to an exit normally because we'll be in the far right lane.
Yeah.
With that vehicle behind us, we were very concerned that they were going to cause a crash that would involve themselves, us, and possibly other road users. Fortunately, nothing happened that day, but I remember my colleague being so unbelievably stressed.
Yeah, and that's another thing, my lovely listeners, is, these guys have got a hard enough job as is. We've got to make their life a bit easier. They've got to get to an emergency situation. Somebody desperately needs their help. Let's not distract them by making driving near them a really silly thing to do. We want to be away from them. We want to give them space. Let them get to their patients. Let them get to their situations safely and well so that they're well prepared to help out the people who do need the help. So, yeah, another point, don't stress out the drivers by doing silly things and dangerous things near them. So what other troubles do you have? I would imagine in the UK they've got parking problems. We're starting to get it here in Australia with our very small roads where you've got cars parked both sides. And again, there are laws for that here in Australia. I'm not sure about the UK. But if a garbage truck can't make their way down, and certainly a fire truck wouldn't be able to. So here in Australia, we're meant to follow those rules where we're not meant to be parked too close on the opposite side of the road. But I think some people do that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I know that the UK, we have lots of narrow roads. There's not a lot of parking, and we have a lot of one-way streets as well. So if you're parked on both sides of a one-way street, we're just going straight down it. There's no space for anybody else. But it's important if you are parking to park responsibly, to park straight in your spot. Please don't be hanging out of it and as close to the curb as you safely can. Obviously, some people need to park a little bit out to get whoever is in the passenger side or the driver's side out of the vehicle. That's totally fine. But being responsible in your parking choices, don't park too close to the intersection because we can't see around the corner, and not sticking out halfway into the road would also be really helpful. Not parking on those red lines, yellow lines. If you know there is a parking restriction, you're not meant to park there for a reason. And it means that if the whole street is parked up, we are going to put our ambulance, our fire truck, whatever emergency vehicle we're driving is going to stop in the middle of the road, hazards on. We've got red lights that will go up on the bat. And we will just stop in the middle of the road to go and attend to our person and block a whole street if we have to. But the better you can park, the less we have to do that.
Yeah, so that's another really important thing to think about, guys, is when you're parking to leave your car safe for the evening, we park it legally, please. Let's not go into driveways. Let's not be half in, half out of spots. Let's park them legally and well. And do check what's opposite you. If you're in a narrow street, have a look across and think, is there enough space for an emergency vehicle to get through? And if not, well, it might take you an extra 20 seconds of walking, but let's park in a better spot, shall we? It'll also save your car. Let's think about your car. You don't particularly want to lose a wing mirror or get a scratch. So there's another good reason to park well.
Yeah, I mean, parking ambulances, I've parked in some very strange places over the years that I would never leave my own vehicle. And we don't like parking really badly because we don't want to block the whole road. We don't want to have to park in bus stops. We will park in bus stops if we need to. Yeah. But we put ambulances in really weird and wonderful places to try and get them as close to people as we need to. But if everybody else is parking the best they can, it gives us more opportunity to park in a way that's safer for everybody. It's hard to see around us if you're coming around us because we're so big. But yeah, parking safely and responsibly, not in the middle of a roundabout, not on the corner of an intersection, makes everything so much safer for everybody and means that I don't have to go to as many RTCs.
Yeah, now that sounds like a good idea. All right. Any other little tips you can give us? Anything else that you can think as a driver's just driving on the roads that, if there's an emergency vehicle near me, what else can I do apart from stay calm? Any other suggestions?
One of the biggest things I could say is if you are going to pull over or you are turning, you're allowed to turn right in front of us if you were going to turn right anyway. Please use your indicators. I know that there's been big campaigns in Australia about using your indicator appropriately, whereas in the UK, you don't always have to use an indicator unless it's going to impede your motion will impede other road users. I would recommend indicating always. But if you are pulling out of the way for one of us, if you give us an idea of where you're going, we are trying to kind of guess what you're doing. But if you indicate, it gives us more time to react to your movements, particularly if you're like, oh, quick, I'll just pull into that spot. If we don't know that spot's there, you're going to suddenly slow down. It makes it a bit harder for us. So indicating, I think, is always one of the best things you can do for us to help us know what you're up to.
Yeah, and that's across the board, folks. You know how I am on indicating, any of you who've listened to my previous episodes. But certainly that's one of the cornerstones of good, safe driving is communicating well with the other road users And as we've just heard Zoe, the paramedic, say, please indicate for us. Don't just panic and steer left or right. Tell them what you're going to do by indicating. Don't put the hazards on, because that doesn't really tell them what's going on. It does. Yeah, Zoe was just, looking at me like, that's
Just
not a
shaking
good
my
idea
head.
either.
No.
Exactly.
Hazards
So,
make
we
us think something's wrong.
yeah, exactly. That's what I think of with hazard lights. There's going to be, my car's broken down or I'm in a big giant line of traffic. A lot of countries around the world, that's their first reaction to anything is they put their hazards on. I'm seeing it a bit more on Australian roads now with all of our visitors here. But you
Yeah.
find that in some countries it's just very confusing. So for certainly here in Australia, and I'm fairly certain for most of the UK, don't put your hazards on, put your indicator on and tell them which way you're going.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Hazards are for when you are a hazard or when there is a hazard ahead of you. Because if you're a stock vehicle on a fast road, you're inherently a hazard, and it might mean that something is wrong. However, if you are in a long line of traffic and you can see us coming, hazards would probably be appropriate at that point if none of you can move. But stopping in front of us and putting your hazards on doesn't help. Indicating the left to let us know you're jumping over the left, that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, that sounds all like fabulous advice. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. I know you're going to head off to your afternoon shift to go save some more people. So we thank you all, and we do appreciate it from all of us who have had to use any sort of medical personnel. We thank you because you guys do really hard work and tough work, and I think you all should be applauded, and let's make their lives easier. Hey, folks, let's let the paramedics get to their job. Let's let the police get to their job. Let's let the fireys get to their job. Let's get out of their way, but safely.
Yeah, that is really the best thing you can do for us is keep yourself safe and keep us safe.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Miss Zoe. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And we'll see if we can catch up another time.
Yeah. See you later.
Thank you. Safe driving, everybody. All right. Wow, that was amazing. So it's really interesting to hear from the driver's point of view of somebody who's doing their job, going to save another human, and they've got to deal with all these other things. So I guess that's really a big eye-opener for a lot of us, where we really do want to make their lives easier and our lives happier so that we can get out of their way. So I'm really pleased that you guys listen along with us on this one. Now, it sounded as if we were strangers, but we're actually not. We're really good friends. In fact, she's practically a part of our family. So while she was here on the Gold Coast learning to become a paramedic, she stayed with us many, many weeks. She was a member of our family for birthdays and special occasions. And we had a fun time doing a crazy scavenger hunt for charity called Gish, or Gish Wears as it was when it first started. So any Gishers out there, we're one of you crazy people as well. So it's just, I was so thrilled to be able to bring her knowledge to this lesson. I know the lesson isn't complex. It's not a massively detailed lesson, as in, I'm talking you through parallel reverse parking or U-turns or three-point turns or even roundabouts. No, it's none of those really complex things. It's more of a common sense lesson, isn't it? And that's my point to you guys. I think that when we're behind the wheel, we often get a bit complacent, especially if we're sitting at a set of traffic lights. We're like, we'll just come on, green light. Instead, we should be on the ball and looking around and going, could there be an emergency vehicle? Can I hear the emergency vehicle? Can I see the emergency lights? Just be aware. So don't just get behind the wheel and switch off. Please switch on and stay switched on, okay? This is a job. It's an important job, and we all want to get home safe, don't we? And we certainly want to let those paramedics and emergency vehicles get to wherever they need to be, because obviously somebody really needs them. All right, guys, so this is the point I make. It's so important to read your road rules and know them, because it really can make a very big difference going from state to state, even in your own country. So just as a general, when an emergency vehicle is approaching, you need to move left and stop if it is safe to do so, even if you're not directly in its path. So obviously, if there's a way you can help everybody move over, that would be fantastic. You also need to use your indicators, as Zoe and I mentioned, to signal your intentions and avoid sudden movements. Do not try and follow or keep pace with the emergency vehicles. As you heard, they've got enough on their minds. The drivers do not need to be distracted by cars doing the wrong thing. Now, if you can't move safely, then just stay put and let the vehicle go around you. Now, this next part, this is why you really do need to know the road rules of the state you're driving in. So, in Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia and Victoria, You are allowed to go through a red light to give way, but only if it is safe. Okay? In WA, Tasmania, Northern Territory, you must not run a red light even if it's for emergency vehicles. So that's really interesting, isn't it? This is why you've got to know the road rules of the state you're driving in. All right, there are also speed limits when passing stationary emergency vehicles. So again, changes from state to state. Now in Victoria, Tasmania and New South Wales, if the speed zone is less than 80 kilometres, you must slow down to 40. In South Australia, you just must slow to 25 full stop. So it doesn't matter what speed zone you're in. And in New South Wales, if it's more than 80 kilometres zone, then you can slow to a safe and reasonable speed. Okay, so again, know your road rules. So guys, stay safe, stay calm, try and relax and enjoy the drive, and I look forward to talking to you next time. And my full driving lessons are available on Apple Podcasts and the artofconfidentdriving.com website, where you will get access to instructional videos. Remember to relax and enjoy the drive. See you next time.